Java, which has got basically it's being run by three municipalities, Kinondoni, Ilala, and Temeke, which are given in different shades there. And you find approximately, not approximately, it's actually 74 wards, which run across the city of Dar es Salaam. The area you're looking at around 1,630 square kilometers, and the climate itself, it's hot, very hot, with two rainy seasons, normally October to December and March to May. Rain for approximately 1,000 millimeters and temperatures around 26 degrees. But if I think of the 36, 38 that we have been seeing in the heat wave of January 2013, I think it's nothing. I wouldn't say it's hot. Right. That map just shows some drainage patterns of which are mainly rivers that cut across the city of Dar es Salaam. And on the upper left, or on the northern part, that's the ocean. So these streams or tributaries, they take water directly into the ocean. Looking at the demographic characteristics, you'll find Dar es Salaam's got about 2.5 million, according to the 2002 census. That's 2002, and you think now it's 2012. Is it still 2.5? And the issues around the accuracy of data, I don't think it's 2.5. I think it's much more than that. And the population density is around 1,500 people per square kilometer. And the graph there basically shows the general trend in rising population or increasing population in the city of Dar es Salaam since 1940 to 2010. That's according to Kebede in 2011. From the economic side, Dar es Salaam is known to be a very fast-growing city in sub-Saharan Africa. I think it's been ranked the fourth, if I'm not mistaken, in sub-Saharan Africa, fourth fastest-growing city in the continent. And it's got a port and landlocked countries around it. You think of DRC, you think of Rwanda, and they actually import particularly vehicles which pass through the city of Dar es Salaam, just like the way Durban is a hub for countries like Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, not Mozambique, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana. They import most of their vehicles via the Durban port. And it's got a 45% nation's gross industrial manufacturing sector within this city, and 95% of Tanzania's trade, international trade, is being controlled or is facilitated via the city of Dar es Salaam. Right. The study methodology basically tried to use secondary data collection, field collection, and the utility of satellite imagery, which are key geospatial technologies that we are referring to. And the photographs there, basically that's showing where we've been collecting global positioning system points within the areas around the city of Dar es Salaam. And that's one of the researchers that I got, who is also undertaking a PhD on this particular issue of floods in Dar es Salaam from the University of Arde. And I think it's part of the data collection that you can be in a position to get the relevant people or right people who can help you, be it with secondary information or particularly collecting data itself, especially if you are in a foreign country that you have never been to before. And the study basically utilized or is intended to partly using secondary information and data from the field to delineate zones of vulnerability, hotspots, if I may put it that way, and try to extract vulnerability indicators and use climate data sets to come up with a flood vulnerability mapping index. And coming to how to apply a flood vulnerability index, the study has used a two-dimensional modeling approach, which basically tries to map using elevation, that's height above the sea level, to say, okay, if you're on a mountain and if you're in a valley, who is more prone to floods, the one who is on the mountain or the one on the valley, right? And then through geospatial technologies, we are in a position to, as you will see in some graphs later on, to distinguish the extent of vulnerability. But then you can't just with an eye quantify or come up with so many people are likely to be vulnerable to floods by looking at them or by counting them. You might make mistakes, but you need to say, okay, this is the threshold that we have when it comes to height above sea level, and can we be in a position to now demarcate the areas that are prone to floods? Develop a flood hazard index and develop flood hazard maps. That's the intention, basically, of the study. Some of the findings or preliminary results that we have so far, just looking at the rainfall data sets, mean rainfall and absolute 24-hour maximum. Why maximum? Because we want to determine, okay, when we had the highest amount of rainfall, that's the chance, that the time that we expect or anticipate to get overland flow, which in this case is floods. So where you see the peaks, those are the times which you anticipate to get the chances of floods. And the mean is just showing the general total amount of rainfall that you can experience, right? And there are so many factors that are other than the rainfall that you receive. There are so many factors that can also contribute to the floods that can occur within an area. Looking at the recurrence of floods in the city of Dar es Salaam, 38 years have been recorded so far to have experienced floods. And the recent 2011 floods claimed 11 people. The fieldwork was undertaken prior to December, so I don't know, probably something might have happened in between the time I was there and now, and maybe we can talk of even more or higher figures than what we have now here. This map just tries to illustrate a digital elevation model that has been used to try and show the high areas and low areas. Generally, as you can see on the map, those light green colors are the lowest levels, and that's the areas that you have high susceptibility or vulnerability or susceptibility to floods. This is a three-dimensional model that has been developed using a GIS tool to show now the elevation, and Dar es Salaam is located around that circle, and you can imagine the level or degree of vulnerability to floods, bearing in mind that its height is just there. So had it been that it was on the red parts, then maybe that explains the scenario that I was talking about, higher and lower levels. And then looking at the using population data together with the elevation data, the highly flooded areas, actually we have noticed that those are the red hotspots, which again is around Dar es Salaam itself. And the unpopulated settlements, which are far from the city, they are not normally that much affected. And estimates have shown that around 140,000 people located are located within low elevation zones. And the total percent of people living below sea level is around 7%. According to a study that has just been recently carried out, more than 100,000 people are anticipated to be exposed by the floods by 2030. And I'm sure with this study that we are carrying, we'll get much more than this number that that has been predicted before. Right. Some of the key challenges that have been identified so far, Tanzania has got a Ministry of Regional and Administrative and Local Government, which is responsible for manning the local municipalities, and it's got what they call the Disaster Management Department under the Prime Minister's office. And some of the key challenges that have been identified basically has been the issues around lack of capacity, which is the skills that we have been referring to, financial constraints as well. In the past, the SALAAM or Tanzania used to get some donor funding from the World Bank in particular, of which the moment World Bank ceases, so most of the projects, they cease functioning. We have a mushroom of informal settlements in the seat of the SALAAM, and these informal settlements are in those low-lying areas. Poor forecasting. When I arrived in Tanzania, there was just a warning that from the meteorological department saying that we are expecting some, heavy rains. And apparently, it took more than 3 months before those heavy rains were expected. And poor forecasting is one of the key challenges. South Africa, an early warning system was sent out last week, and the very same week, heavy rains were received. But still people died. Why? Because people, they don't listen to the warnings that are given. Hence, one of the major challenges that I highlighted here is lack of public awareness. No matter how you might have a good, early warning system, but still you might have the challenges. And of course, over-reliance on donor funding. Once those donor funds are being seized, then everything goes on a standstill. Because of time, I'll rush. These are just some highlights of photos showing areas which are in low elevation zones. And you can imagine poor planning. How can you have such a massive building, that one, being built in a very, very low-lying zone, and there are no mechanisms that have been put in place to guard against things such as floods. So when a flood comes, what happens to that property? Other photos as well, they just show generally the challenge that the seat of the SALAAM has, which have got an impact on floods. I had just an overview of the adaptive capacity for the seat of the SALAAM. Planning for disasters, I say very low, because often ad hoc arrangements are done in response. When the disasters occur, then you find people running up and down because there's a crisis. Economic growth stands out to be a model sound economic performance with a growth rate of over 6% in 2011-2012. But with such challenges, where is that money what is it being used for? Financial resources, often most projects are donor funded. Slum clearance or squatter upgrading projects in flood-prone areas have been abandoned due to financial constraints. Technology, lack of access to technology and skills. Institutions, policies, strategies, and plans needed to support disaster management systems in the city. Population growth, of course, and of course, flood frequency and severity, which are on the high note. So Tanzania or the SALAAM's adaptive capacity, I can rank it as low. Because of time, I'm rushing. Sorry, I'm almost finishing, Chair. I underscore climate change is a reality, and there's need to deal with its effects, such as floods. Development of a comprehensive flood hazard map would be one of the most crucial steps for implementing non-structural remedial measures. And the provision of case studies like this one to map vulnerability areas is key in building resilience to natural disasters such as floods. And this study, of course, through the use of geospatial aid in drawing out implications for adaptation and policy. There are some other areas that needs to be explored later. Lastly, there's an article that I just read again, which was now talking about much I've tended floods is very bad and very catastrophic, I'll read 30 seconds. Soaked as we are in anxieties about climate change, the great flood in the books of Genesis offers a defining metaphor. Nature in this mythological account plays out as vengeful disaster. The ark, on the other hand, is a technology that can mitigate and ultimately save lives, while Noah, the patriarch, embodies presented policy. The story of the great deluge, however, for all its compelling elements, gets one aspect of the plot wrong. The idea of flood itself as always being an overwhelming calamitous event, meaning much as they are very disastrous, but there are actually quite a number of benefits that have been tapped from these floods that have occurred in the past or in many parts of the world. So with this, I say thank you, ladies and gentlemen.